as we head into this episode here, I am surprised how fast that time goes by.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that was that. I totally enjoyed that. I believe that one is going to be very beneficial to those that watch it or listen.
Okay.
All right, so let's segue into what my question earlier was, and that is, you more than anybody on this planet would understand the importance or the disadvantages of using drugs to try to assist in our mental health. So please elaborate.
Yeah, well, so drugs are the obvious way that we change our state of being, aren't they? They're very obvious. But we use all sorts of things to change our state of being. You know, it might be excessive cleaning, or it might be going to the gym, or, you know, any, or reading, or any number of things. And so I think it's whether that thing that you're using is damaging to you. What you're trying to avoid when you're doing that. Are you avoiding something that might be important for you to pay attention to? But on the subject of drugs, I think, yeah, alcohol, really bad. But I think one of the worst things for you is caffeine, isn't it? It's terrible, especially if you have anxiety. It's terrible for the nervous system. Um, I think you have to ask yourself. So for instance, I'm not, some things I'm kind of ambivalent about. So cannabis, I think you can use cannabis quite productively. I think cannabis can bring back long buried memories, for instance. I think the sense of nostalgia can be associated with cannabis. I think let's say your experience of music can be enhanced by cannabis. And we know it's also really, really good for a lot of medical conditions. But like everything, it gets distorted, doesn't it? People are growing cannabis artificially for much more of the THC, the psychoactive part of the plant. So again, you're no longer getting the natural plant as the creator intended. You're getting something that's distorted.
Mhm.
So I'm, and there's no doubt about it, I see lots of young people who maybe have it's brought on a psychotic episode for, or who suffer from paranoia because their brains are still developing. Um, so I, I think with responsible use, I think cannabis can actually be a good thing. I think it expands your creativity, no doubt about it. And certainly, as I said to you the other day, I'm studying psychedelics at the moment, working with psychedelics, not legal yet in our country, but there's lots of research going on to show that they're really helpful for depression, anxiety, for terminal patients who are fearful of death, because they open up access to those spiritual realms or those other higher states of consciousness.
Mhm.
So that can be very helpful for us. But things like cocaine, again, I'm not sure really about that. People tend to get an inflated ego, doesn't last very long. Long-term use can damage you in physical ways. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily good for you.
Mhm.
But one way or another, we all use different, you know, even sex. You use sex to change your state of being from an undesirable state to a desired state.
Mhm. Yeah, so there seems to be a common denominator here, and that is we're trying to escape pure sobriety one way or another. Where like I look at, and I may have said this before, but I wake up, when I wake up, I'm stone sober. And then I do add my caffeine, which you're right, without question, I'd probably be better off to add melatonin than caffeine. Um, but that does, on one hand, though, it changes my frequency, makes me a little bit more tolerant of the energy around me.
Does
Okay,
it?
then I'll
Yeah.
reach, because again, to me, it's acceptance and tolerance. It's me living I'm working my way toward a frequency of laughter, you know? Um, isn't it funny how we all get by, but not the way that makes us laugh? And so then I add a little nicotine, which again is counterproductive to those with anxiety. Um, Then it used to be where I would add alcohol. And but in each of those cases, it's changing my perception of the energy around me, you know?
Yes.
And so you know, again, I would ask you, does the mind go where the drug takes it? And if like when I look at cannabis, like as a matter of fact, I asked my daughter just yesterday. Sydney loves home from Breckenridge visiting us, and I said, "Honey, when you guys are out there, do you guys smoke any pot?" And she goes, "Hell no." She goes, "Hell no." She goes, "I suffer from enough anxiety. That's the last thing I'll add to it." And I've found the same with me. Any types of cannabis, it causes my mind to think about things I normally wouldn't think about, and those things I'm now thinking about now give me anxiety and fear. But it's simple for me to go, okay, that's just not the drug I want. I don't like that one, you know,
Well,
and
and it
stay
doesn't
away from
suit
it.
you. It doesn't suit your
Yes,
constitution. Yeah.
right. And drugs affect each person differently. For every
Yeah, they
person
do.
that gets anxiety with marijuana, other people find peace.
Well, and for you, not that I'd recommend it, but we were having a discussion about perhaps you might have a form of ADHD. You certainly recognize some of those symptoms. And, you know, I know that some people that have ADHD, if they take cocaine, which is a stimulant, it actually calms them down. Whereas if I were to take it, you know, I'm a kind of person that I'm so anxious that I like things that are going to mellow me, not
Right.
things that are going to activate me. So if I took cocaine, that I know that would just be horrific for me. So it's
Right.
knowing your constitution as well.
Mhm. Right, right. And that's where again they can play such an important role. You know, again, if whether it be marijuana or the CBD or whatever it is, in the different drugs, because again, what we're trying to do is to take this mind, I believe, and help it find peace.
Yes,
And
of course.
you know, and two, yeah, like arousal or sex or food, a dessert, ice cream. I mean, these are all things that
Well,
change.
sugar,
Yeah,
that's the worst drug, isn't it? Look how damaging that is for a sugar.
certainly addicting.
Yeah, yeah. And bad for the
Mhm.
body. It's a poison to the body. And it's in everything, isn't it?
Right.
Sugar's in everything.
And look at if you look at again, I don't know the direct correlation between sugar and obesity, but look at the lives it's destroyed, where people
Yeah,
have
it's
used that drug to try to find peace. I'm guessing, or you know, to whatever it is that they're taking that drug for. Um, and the results are catastrophic,
yeah,
you know, in terms
yeah.
of the damage it can do. But you know, this is where, like, again, when you talk about the hallucinogenics, and it's you know, it's a debate that says, is your mind actually hallucinating, or have you freed the mind to what's real?
Yeah,
And
well, absolutely. There was, I mean, I dabbled in all sorts of things when I was young, in terms of psychedelics, and then I went through a stage on my spiritual path where I thought exactly that it was just artificial. You know, whatever spiritual experience you're having is artificial. But now I no longer think that. I think they are doorways.
yes,
You know, it cuts out a part of our brain that actually interferes with us entering those states. So you can get into similar states with meditation, long-term meditation practice, but I guess it's easier and quicker, isn't it, to try a
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, I like the way you said that. That they're doorways. They're
yeah,
doorways as opposed to some sort of an illusion.
yeah,
You know, that's artificial. It's a doorway to what's real. And that's I mean, again, because it can't be denied, the mind is what's alive. That's what's
yes.
real. And if you start adding drugs to it, that mind's going to go wherever that drug takes it. And that can be an open door to frequencies and dimensions by which our brain prohibits us.
But if it were just that simple that it's the effects of the drug, then we would expect everybody to be having the same hallucinate or same kind of hallucinations. I mean, I never really like that word because I don't
Mhm,
really know what that means. You know, if you're, you know, when you're dreaming, that dream
mhm,
is very, very real for you, isn't it? It's as real as this reality until you wake up.
mhm.
So I think when you're having those psychedelic experiences, they have a reality to you, you know.
Oh, without, yeah, I believe so. But too, I believe that, you know, as unique as your life is to you alone, you know, your perception of this energy, once
Yeah.
you go into the other frequencies, it becomes even more unique for you. So without question, that drugs are going to take you to places that only you get to go. You know, and I
Yeah,
think that's why. Go ahead.
sorry, Matt. Finish what you were
No,
saying.
no, well,
Sorry.
just so I believe that it's accurate. That says marijuana will take a certain mind to a certain place. Hallucinogenics will take a different mind to a different place, and you can never expect it to be the same for two people. Just the
Yeah.
way life is unique to us alone on this planet. The moment our mind leaves this planet, it becomes even more unique to that individual and their relationship with what is.
Yeah. And I think also the divine, in whatever way you want to think about that, talks to you in a language that you can understand, through a frame of reference that you understand. So if
Exactly.
you're a Catholic, then maybe you'll see the Virgin Mary, you know, or maybe you'll see Jesus. You know, that wouldn't necessarily speak to me. I'd need that to come in a different way. So I think a lot of what we experience in those realms are metaphor, aren't they? As I say, things come in a way that you can understand it.
Absolutely. And why would anybody anticipate the creator to act any differently? I
Yeah,
mean, if you look at the NDEs, there's consistencies in the testimonies, but they're completely unique to the needs of that individual conscious
yeah,
soul, which
yes,
is, of
that's
course, the way the creator works, you know, or each one of our experiences is going to be unique because we're one with them.
yes,
So now when it comes to the hallucinogenics, because now in America here, they're starting to we can get everything in a microdose,
yeah.
pot and delta 8, but also mushrooms now appear to come in a microdose to where and I have a fear factor in terms of you know just allowing the mind to escape to that degree. So, you know, in other words, if I couldn't turn it off and come back to where I am, I would be fearful. So do you see any of that? That there's that um if you're messing around or if you're taking the types of hallucinogenics where people just become scared or horrified or paranoid? That would
Well,
be
it's no
my
doubt.
fear is what if I can't tolerate or I it's too much.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I absolutely had a bad trip when I was 16, taking mushrooms, no doubt about it. But it was linked to my feelings, how I felt about myself at the time, and there was lots of awfulness in my family. So I don't think anything happens in isolation. I think often these things are a reflection. Um, but I guess what I object to is, why do I need a government to tell me what I can and can't do with my own body, what I can and can't experiment with, what they decide? You know, they legalize tobacco and alcohol, which I think are infinitely more damaging, and sugar,
Mhm.
infinitely more damaging than doing mushrooms. So one, I think I should have the choice, but also I think a lot of us aren't willing to take responsibility for ourselves. So if I'm, as part of my training, I have to go across to the Netherlands and have my own psychedelic experience. Now, I'm not going to do that without thinking about what the repercussions might be, thinking carefully about what I want to get from that experience, knowing and trusting the people that I'm going to be with,
Right.
and thinking about what I might need after that experience. And the only person that can decide all that for me is me. I'm going to take responsibility for that. So, so I think we know with psychedelics, we talk incessantly about set and setting. So, what is your intention and what environment are you going to be in? And it's very different from doing something recreationally and
Right.
not really thinking about it. But I think that's another thing that's wrong with our society, is we're used to handing over responsibility to God, to the government, to the doctor, you know, and not taking responsibility for ourselves.
Couldn't agree more.
I
Couldn't
went on
agree
a bit of a
more.
rant there, Matt.
No, no, that's beautiful. And two, once you relinquish responsibility, they'll take it. They'll take it.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
for sure.
you know, you get 1 out of 100 people that say, "Hey, I believe these drugs should be policed," and the government will pounce on that and go, "You got it, man. We'll police these things. Be happy to do so."
Yeah,
Yeah.
but why? What? But whilst government agencies rather are involved in allowing drugs to get to us, aren't they? You know,
Oh,
it's such bullshit. You know, if
yeah.
you really didn't want those substances coming into the country, they wouldn't come into the country, would they?
Yeah.
You know, it's
Without question, they permit it, and it's a cyclical thing. That's
yeah.
obviously a podcast for another time, but
Yes, sorry.
my God, they could if for some reason, you know, would just think in terms of cocaine. I mean, my God, they could sell the stuff. It'd be cheaper than sugar if we wanted it to be.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's just wait a minute. And the fact that the policies mean that the wrong people, now, number one, I think government themselves is the wrong people, but the way the government does it means that the truly wrong people are making all the money. That
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's all right, well, let's shift gears to something a little lighter. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
So let's talk about music. Okay. Because I've been to church where I walked away from church with this beautiful feeling of acceptance and love. And that's really why I went to church. I was never there for the lecture. I was just there for the great feeling it created when I walked out the door. It just allowed me for a minute to punch out of the shit show, come to the thought, you know, in other words, my brain punched out of this world and I start thinking about the spiritual world. And boy, some goodness comes from that. But I've found I almost get that more so by going to a concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I guess from a psychotherapy standpoint, what are your thoughts on how music can unite the conscious soul? How we can find a musician that we share in common and that can unite us? What
Yes,
are your thoughts on that?
of course it can. Yeah, who can deny that? Who can deny that? Um, yeah, beyond lyrics, even, you know, if you speak different languages, a tune can carry you to the same. You can share that, can't you? Absolutely, absolutely, without a doubt. And you know, music, we can use it to match our mood, change our mood. And when you hear a riff or a phrase or a note or a harmony that you really resonate with. I mean, honestly, it can just absolutely get your hair standing on end, can't it? There's nothing better.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's amazing the therapeutic effect of it.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, and the transformational part, because again, when I think in terms of people that are suffering from anxiety or depression or what be it, it's crazy that there might be this simple path that says, listen, you just need to pop on the right song here. And
Yeah.
then now all of a sudden your mind followed the lyrics and the melody and it took you out of the shit show and put you into someplace nice.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about frequencies. I mean, music is frequency, isn't it? What is it? 440 hertz or something? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But it's interesting. I watch because I love music and I sing not well, but I love singing. I love the feeling that you get. And I
Mhm.
watch a lot of these podcasts where they're reacting to a band singing live or whatever, and they're talking about that. And there's one guy I watch in particular, and he was saying how sad he is that everything's being auto-tuned, you know, so that they're hitting the note exactly. And he said that's not how someone sings. The emotion comes through your voice, and to the ear it will sound like you're hitting a note, but when you actually look at it, it's slightly sharp or slightly flat because of the emotion in the voice. And so even that natural joy of music and sound is being adulterated because
Yes. Mhm.
nothing's natural anymore, is it? It's all got to
Right.
be perfect, perfect, perfect. But that's not, you know, just if you're speaking to somebody that's got a really monotone voice, it's just really boring, isn't it? You know, our voices go up and down. They have flow, they have lilt, they have
Mhm.
rise and fall. That's what music is. It shouldn't be exact in that way.
I couldn't agree more. And that's why I'm so quick to point out to my children and go, listen to this song. This thing was written in 1974.
Yeah.
Just look at the production of this thing. It's simply amazing that it's 50 years old. Um, so final thought on that. What do you think in terms of because if you look at literally the most powerful and probably popular people on this planet are musicians.
Yes.
Starting with Taylor Swift, she's had the ability to move an entire generation to where they adore. They adore. So, what do you think it is about her music that literally caused a generation, an entire generation to support her?
I don't know because I'm obviously I know who she is and I know one or two of her songs, but I don't really know much about her and her phenomena to really talk about that. I guess one of the things I do that know is that she's quite humorous, really, and she's quite real in some of the things that she says. But I heard something that really disturbed me that I don't know if it must be in your country, Matt, but
Mhm.
there's some kind of course you can go on to learn about Taylor Swift, or I don't know what it is, some kind of educational thing.
Mm.
And that just drives me crazy. But I guess whoever it is, whether it's Taylor Swift or Madonna or Jimi Hendrix or whoever it might be, don't all of us secretly wish that we could kind of sing and get up there on stage and belt it out? Of course we do. Who doesn't fantasize about being in a band? You know?
Yeah, well, and I think that's because when they're doing it, again, they're creating energy. Okay, even
Yeah,
if because I'm kind of a live band junkie, like on my Fridays
yeah,
and Saturdays, I try to find live music. And
yeah,
what it is the moment the band has the crowd in the right energy, they're receiving that energy back. So
yeah,
yeah, it looks like it would be, I mean, better than cocaine to have all
yeah.
these people singing your songs. But what it is I believe, like in Taylor's case, I just believe she wrote songs that really resonated with people
With the
about,
young people,
it was
yeah,
breakups with boyfriends or whatever it
yeah,
might be, but it
yeah.
resonated with people. They could, and when you can write the lyric and then provide the melody and take that conscious soul into that place, Taylor's taken them all there with her. It's a magical thing. And I have nothing but respect for her, especially at her young age, to be able to handle that type of success, and she seems to be doing it just fine. But
But
without
the,
question, the power she wields is Jesus would be nothing but envious.
well, and also, how do you manage that amount of power and success in a productive way? But I'm also really cynical because there's a guy called Mark Devlin over here in the UK that does an awful lot about the satanic stuff that's behind all music, and I believe there's a guy in the US who does something similar, although his name escapes me at the moment. So I think that these people, they're chosen to be popular, and there's all sorts of stories about various people selling their soul to the devil to get that success and that glory. um, so
Well,
I don't know, because you love live bands, as do I, and there are so many brilliant bands out there who no one ever gets to hear about.
right, no
And
question.
yeah, and I think with live music, I know myself, whether it's somebody busking in the street or someone up the local pub, when I'm listening to it, I can't help but be in the groove. And even though it might be something that I would probably never buy or never choose to listen to at home, but there's something about it being live and immediate. I just love it. I just don't think there's anything better for the soul as
I
it is to
agree.
be as it is to be in church or sing in a choir with other voices and the harmonies that soar and take you to another place. I mean, oh my God, who could live without music?
Yeah, I agree, and I'm with you. There's something about dancing,
Yes,
something about bouncing and allowing your body to get into the rhythm and the groove. Absolutely, we got to go dancing, my friend.
I love it.
Somehow, I'm going to get onto that side of the planet or bring you over here. We'll go do some dancing. That'd be
Definitely,
great. Yeah, and
definitely.
a final thought on that, the Taylor Swift and the magnitude of the powers that are behind her, because again, when all's said and done, she's the first one to say, "What's in your wallet?" You know,
Yes.
so unfortunately, I am 100% with you in terms of the pop culture and truly the diabolical scenarios that are unfolding behind it.
Well, because the devil's not stupid. He's going to use the things that we love, isn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an unfortunate part of a silver lining that it what
Yeah.
could be, you know. Um, but all right, my beautiful friend. Did I remember to tell you how much I love you today?
Ah, bless you. And me, you,
Yes.
my darling.
Yes, you're such a special part of my life. I love it. I'm going to make it a point. We're going dancing, my friend. Promise you.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Hey, thank you for the time. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right, my darling.
All right. Bye bye.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.